Hello everyone, I'm Giuliana and I'll be explaining about protectionist tariffs and their effects on different stakeholders. Let's begin with the definition of protectionist tariffs. They are measures imposed by the government in order to protect the domestic market of its country. In other words, they protect local industries from foreign competition, which usually has cheaper foreign goods. Besides, tariffs is just another word for tax. Then, let's define protectionist tariffs as a tax applied on imported goods meant to protect domestic producers from cheaper foreign competition. Now, let's see how those tariffs affect the industry of a country. For example, South Korea doesn't have the best apple industry, so to meet the demand, it needs to import apples from other countries. On the other hand, the United States have a very good apple industry, so the two countries decide to start a commercial relationship. Now, the imported apples are sold at a low price in the South Korean market. Thus, Korean consumers can buy apples at a world price, which is set by large industries, like the American one. But this might cause a problem. Imagine that the Korean apple producers complain to the government because now the local industry is struggling to sell. Then the government may apply protectionist tariffs on apples. Now, American apples are sold at a higher price, the world price plus the Korean tax. And this situation affects the demand for apples. How? Well, a higher price leads to a fall in demand. However, as consumers are buying from local producers, apple growers can grow more apples themselves and then increase their production. All of this also causes a decrease in the number of imports. Okay, now we are going to evaluate the effect of apple tariffs on different stakeholders. First, I will explain what is a surplus. This is the economic situation when the incomes are higher than the cost of production. In our example, the consumer surplus has decreased because the apple price has increased and the demand is lower than before. Anyways, this was an expected situation because the protectionist tariffs are created to protect the producers, no consumers. Moving on, let's see the impact of the tariffs on producers. The domestic producer surplus has increased. The Korean apple growers are earning more money, and also the local apple supply is larger. As you can see, protectionist tariffs really benefit Korean producers. On the other hand, we should analyze the impact of the tariffs on foreign producers. In this example, before the tariffs, the American apple growers had excellent revenues from their commercial relationship with South Korea. But after the tariffs, the price of their apples has increased, so they are having fewer revenues. Also, the quantity of imported apples has decreased. In other words, they are selling fewer apples and getting fewer revenues. Yet they still get some profits from this commercial relationship. Lastly, this is how protectionist tariffs affect the government. The tariffs give tax revenues to the government, and consumers are benefited through it because the government may spend those revenues in public health or education. Finally, if we consider the total welfare, tariffs produce a loss in the consumer surplus, which may exceed the producers and government surplus. In this case, the tariffs create more losers than winners. But at the end of the day, it's up to the government to decide whether to protect the producers or not. And that brings us to the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for listening.